you kind of get what you get today. Yeah. Did I brush my hair? I did brush my hair this morning, and I'm wearing my hoodie. This is it. This is me. This is real life. This is what I look like today. All right, Fiberista. So today I thought I would talk about my crochet blanket. So yeah, I believe it was Stacy who was asking about my crocheted granny squares. And so I'm going to share that with you. First, I want to share this blanket. See, isn't that awesome? Woo! This, I used to have this on display in my booth. It shows off a lot of my worsted weight yarns along with some other stuff. And this is, I'm still working on adding this, but this is like a traditional modular where I would do, you know, the 2 rounds and then take the 3rd round to attach all the squares together. And this one, I have a couple of videos where way back when I was doing Periscope, and I shared with you the progress on this blanket. So this is one big granny square. So I started with the center and just added rounds and rounds of, and this is a blanket that it's actually kind of full of cat hair right now because this is one we keep on the sofa for covering up our legs or whatever. This you may have seen on the blog, on the newsletter, if you get my newsletter. If not, there's a link down below. And this is one that I'm working on as well, a stash buster. Alright, so let me talk about my granny squares. I love granny squares. It's kind of addictive. I know there's like a million different ways that you can crochet granny squares, but I like doing the traditional granny squares with the little 3 clusters of double crochets. I'm going to put a link down below where I share a blog post where I talk about my granny squares and some resources for that. And I also have a diagram of the pattern that I use, particularly for this size square. Like, yeah, this size square. Otherwise, if you're doing the bigger one, you can just keep going around. This other one is a slanted cluster, and I'll find a link to that and put that down below too. So what I mean, generally you can use any weight yarn and any hook that matches with that weight. Like sock yarn is a great thing to knit grannies with, although it will take forever. I personally like using wool and wool blend worsted weight singles. I used to dye worsted weight singles. I used to source them from Uruguay, and when that mill stopped distributing, then I found a resource within the States and was using that. But it's the same type of yarn that you might find with Manos Manos de Uruguay has the same type of yarn. It's a merino single worsted weight, and they're just really yummy to work with. I mean, you can also use Malabrigo. Malabrigo's awesome, has an awesome worsted weight single. And I've even in these blankets have used Lamb's Pride domestic wool single with a little bit of mohair in it. So all of those are generally around the same weight. I've even gone and used some of my Noro bits, some leftover Noro from a lot of projects, because that's also a single. It's a little thinner than the other stuff, but it works out just fine, because I think when you're crocheting, if the weights are just slightly different, it's very forgiving. All right, so when I'm doing something like this blanket, I mean, I'm really not using colorways here. I am basically stash busting. and I guess, I tend to lean towards a lot of bluesy greens and greensy blues. And then I also try and make sure to distribute the different values. And by values, that means that some of the colors are pastels and some of them are really dark. I try to spread out the variegated yarns and just combine it as I go, and just kind of keep an eye on the whole project as well as the same thing. Don't be afraid to mix a lot of colors. Kay Facette has always said if a colorway's not working, then add 10 more colors or something like that. Anyway, yeah, so don't be afraid to add a ton of color. It usually just works itself out. And a lot of times too, if you're working with doing a stash buster, generally people, and this I know from working at a yarn shop and having my own yarn business, people tend to gravitate towards the same kind of family of colors. So rest assured that your stash probably has a lot of colors in common. So don't be afraid to mix up what you've got going on. And just, I don't know. I mean, like this one, I've been working on this one for a long time, and you just do a little bit at a time as you can. I know this one this diagonal one I started at the beginning of football season, and I'm a big Alabama football fan, and so on Saturdays when I was chained to the TV watching a 4-hour football game, then I would work on this blanket. And that's it. I mean, I don't try to overthink. Like I said, I don't try and overthink it too much. I just try to space out the colors, and I try to alternate the different darks and lights and mediums and the variegateds. I don't put a lot of variegateds together. I try and divide it up with some solids. And really, that's about it. So anyway, like I said, I'll put some links down below on how to do those granny square stitches, and I'll put the names of some other stuff, because I'm sure if you Google on YouTube, you'll find all kinds of instructions on how to do those stitches. So there you have it. That's what I've got for you guys today. So I hope you had a really good day, and I'll talk to you later. We've got 4 more days. Oh no, I'm gonna miss you guys. So anyway, there you have it. I hope you had a good day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.